You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek Unlimited.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek Unlimited, episode 135. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining me this week are...
You're doing Mike.
Mike the Birdman Dodd, and I'm excited to be here.
That makes one of us. I mean...
Hey man, I'm excited for this weekend. A lot of good stuff coming up. I'm hyped for a change. It's nice.
So, I figured, before we get into anything else, some of you know, and I actually forgot to include this clip in last week's episode until after I'd edited the podcast. I had this extra file sitting on my phone that I'd recorded while I was at work, and I was trying to figure out why this file was there of 10 minutes long, and it turns out it was my conversation about Midwest Media Expo before I went to Midwest Media Expo. So, because I was going to explain some of the things about it, primarily of like how I got there, which consisted of, I did some art back in January, early February, and because they wanted covers for their book and then like some of their passes. Well, why they still gave me the free pass, I don't know, considering they used 2 or 3 other people's stuff too, including mine. Mine was literally like the first page in the book, but it wasn't the cover of the book like I designed. Mm-hmm. And then the passes were based off of one of the other people's arts. And I think the other reason it got in was because it was super simplistic, what I designed, and it was kind of much like the rest of the stuff that Midwest did. And while I was excited to go, the day itself was nothing but a cluster.
What happened?
Shall I proceed?
Of course.
Well, first of all, how long? I asked you this off. You had called me that day that you were at Midwest, and I had asked you how long have they been doing this, and you said what?
They've been doing it for 3 years.
They've been doing this thing for 3 years.
This
you think by the
time,
third
they've been
year,
doing this convention. They do an anime one in November every year for the last 10 years,
mm-hmm.
and it boggled my mind how clustered this was. Now, mind you, when I first sent in for the contest, and this is before the day, I sent in the submissions, but a week later I get a reply saying, that's not, did you read the rules? That's not according to what we asked for, because I designed this stuff, but they didn't exactly, spell it out completely. So I was like, well, I apologize, but this is what I have, so, if it doesn't qualify, then, thanks for looking at it. And about a month later, I get an email saying, yeah, we might be using your art, so could you add just this one thing to it? And then that was the last I heard about it until the end of March. And then I get this email saying that mine and these 2 other people's arts were chosen for the thing, and we were getting free passes, 3-day pass, and just give your information so that we could get you all set up and have you have a page in the book advertising you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I sent that back, but there was no reply to it or anything after that. So fast forward to the day of the convention. So I drive, it's about an hour and 20 minutes from where I live. So I drove there. Pretty nice setup on the outside. A lot of different cosplayers, like a crap ton of cosplayers. And I was telling TFG1 while I was there that and I'll get into the multitudes of how many variations of characters I saw, but so I get in there and I'm early, it's like 10:15. So I go to get my badge. Well, the person that's in charge of that didn't show up wasn't showing up till 11. So they told me to come back. And mind you, there's 20 of these people sitting in this room, and none of them thought to check any of this stuff. They were just too busy sitting on arse the entire time. Mm-hmm. So I go back in there, and it's almost 11, and I'm trying to hit this 11:30 panel because none of the panels really opened until 11. And so I was kind of okay, I can't get into any of the rooms unless I get this badge. So I go in there and I'm like, so did you find my badge? And they're all just kind of thumb up rears looking around, and I'm like explaining it. And one guy stopped eating long enough to grab the folder directly in front of him, which had my name in it, and hand me my badge. To which I, signed it out, and then I, he was scanning through names too of free passes on an iPad and passed my name 3 times, and I'm like, no, just let me do it. And I showed him where my name was so I could get my damn badge. And then so I get that, and I go to this first panel that is now mind you, I didn't have the book, so I had no idea where any of these rooms are. So I'm winging it this whole time trying to find stuff.
Did you not? Could you not use a program like, say, Guidebook to download their thing, or did they not have one set up?
They didn't have anything set up to even their booklet. Part of the times of their schedule were cut off because of the way it was printed. There was a whole hour gap missing on every day of every time the page turned.
Oh.
Because of the way that they printed this stupid thing. And I found this panel, and it was about how to, do YouTube videos and so on. And I'm kind of just going just out of curiosity, and I'm killing time. Because I wanted to see how I never turned down free information. So I was comparing it with my media courses plus my my knowledge of what I had of YouTube up to that point. So I did that, and then I checked it out, learned a few things, some stuff I already knew. Mostly it was on the analytics side that I kind of got to learn about. And then, so I go from there to, I think they had the autograph session shortly thereafter, and it was for Greg Wiseman, Jason Marsden, and I screwed this up because I recorded a response video after I did this convention, and then I promptly deleted it because it was too long and I was getting half cocked. But I couldn't remember this guy's name, and he plays Ratchet.
Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, Jeffrey Combs. Thank you.
Oh, that's cool. The fucking Reanimator. That's so.
Well, it gets funny. Picture Ratchet from Transformers Prime. That's exactly his personality.
Just that dry cut?
Yeah, that dry cut and kind of almost emotionless, kind of just irritated kind of looking dude.
Too bad you didn't have him say, Steve, I needed that.
The convention, and that's another thing I'll get into about the convention.
Yeah.
They said about the autograph sessions that you could have up to 4 items signed, among them being things that you could purchase from the photos from the voice actors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, plus a personal item. So I had him sign the book, and then I didn't have any cash on me, of course. But the Midwest Media Expo person that was telling everybody what to do before they got up to the actors was saying no photos to keep the lines moving. But the lines weren't particularly long for these 3, so I don't see what it mattered. Jason Marsden didn't really care. He was doing it anyway. He was recording custom voicemails. He was hugging people. He didn't care.
Jason Marsden, is that the guy that played Cyclops?
No. You're thinking James Marsden.
Okay.
Jason Marsden is, he played Young Goofy, and he was...
he's Max Goof.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And so anyways, he was pretty down to earth, and Greg Wiseman almost seemed kind of bored as well, kind of out of his element.
Who's he?
And he was selling scripts and some other stuff too. And so I had them sign stuff, and then Jason Marsden, I get up to him and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, yeah, we, one of the guys on my podcast network actually interviewed you a couple of years ago. And he's like, oh, really? Which one? And then I told him, he says, yeah. He says, I vaguely remember that. He says, I haven't been on a podcast in a long time. And
yeah, we've talked to him twice. The first time.
Well, funny you should say that, though, is I actually got some dough so I could get autographs from them. And he says, back again. He says, Steve, is it? With a V? And then he goes to sign one of his posters, and he's like, he screwed it up, spelling his name. And he's like, you'd think I'd know my own name after writing this so many times. And so he throws it on the floor, and he gets another one. And then, so I BS'd with him for a few minutes, and then went from there to they had a collaborative like toon panel where they had Greg Wiseman, Jeffrey Combs, Jason Marsden, Billy West, and Richard Horowitz, which I didn't realize was the voice of Alpha 5 from Power Rangers.
Weird.
And he was the voice of Invader Zim and one of the Angry Beavers. So like I knew those, but I didn't know he was Alpha 5. And so like I was like, really?
I'm
but
hyped
anyways,
for his Invader Zim stuff.
yeah. So like, and I've never watched Invader Zim, but I knew.
Tragic crime, Steve. Tragic crime.
Yeah, well, it's what I've been exposed to and what I haven't been. So, anyways, I went to that panel. Hilarious. They actually went over by a half hour and was irritating the Midwest people, but they just kept talking. And then they kept having people get in line for Q&A, and Jason Marsden goes over to the Midwest guy, and he's like, "This dude like a Blitz or something?" You know, so they were like, one question, pick a voice actor, and then they just went around and then got it through them all. Mm-hmm. And every time I went through a break of something, I'd go out to my car and eat and kind of rest for a little bit. But then they had I went down to the gaming room, and I played Smash Brothers tournaments on the Wii U, which was pretty fun. I get to find out how bad I am compared to kids younger than me.
Man.
And I'd never played the Wii U version. And so I wasn't experienced with the fact that they had Cloud in there and they had like Bayonetta in there and various characters like that. So I was used to like Smash Brothers Brawl. And going in there, they nerfed a bunch of the characters from Brawl. Like Sonic doesn't have some of the same moves and so on. Like I just, a lot of the characters I was used to using weren't very good in that game, so I had to kind of switch it up. But I figured out if I played as Samus or a Zero Suit Samus, I could pretty much get I would get second to last of being alive. And I think I played like 10 or 11 rounds, and I went up to get, they had the autograph session for Billy West, Steve Downs, Richard Horowitz, and they had two other people there I'd never heard of before.
Who's Richard Horowitz? Like, what's his stuff?
He's the one that did Invader Zim, and he did one of the Angry Beavers in Alpha 5.
Oh, okay.
And so, of course, I went to Steve Downs, got his autograph. Super cool dude. The funny thing was because the line was so long for Billy West, they were letting anybody in Halo garb go see Steve Downs first.
Makes sense.
So, because that's mostly what they were there for. So they got that, and then I went and saw Horowitz, and he was pretty cool. Somebody had him sign his guitar, and he just starts like playing the guy's guitar and starts singing. And then Billy West like stops doing his autographs and starts singing with him. And it was great listening to that. And then I had him sign an Alpha 5 thing, and he goes, "Ay, ay, 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 ay," and he's like sitting there writing what he's saying on the picture, which is great. And then I get up to, now mind you, we're all recording stuff like while we're in line, like recording the actors, taking pictures of them while we're in line because we can't physically get a picture with them. Because they were like, oh, it's against con policy, because the convention people just didn't want to, and it depended on the person that was with the actor too, whether they were a dick about it or not.
Well, yeah, because there's a whole different side to that, and I'll explain that to you guys later, because it's more complicated than you might think, actually.
Well, like, it was funny because certain people from the con didn't care and would just let you do whatever with the actor, and then other ones were like, oh, no, you can't do that. Speaking of which, getting to Billy West, I was in line for him, and he was doing something, and I was recording something, and I took a picture of him or whatever, and, just kind of showing that I was in line. Because I was next up, and the chick next to him gets up and is like, "You can't be recording anything. It's against con policy. You can't get his picture, and you can't." And I was like, "Okay," but she didn't make me delete any of it either. So, so I got up there, got his signature and everything, and got out of there. And then I pretty much at that point was pretty pissed off with the convention anyway, and tired, so I left. But they had another like panel for the actors, which if I would have stuck around for that, it would have had all the voice actors again, plus John St. John, who was running around in cosplay, who I didn't get to meet either, or Kyle Bear, because they were at different panels when I was doing different different panels. So, yeah. I wasn't particularly thrilled with the con, but I was glad for the guests I got to meet and some of the other cosplayers that I met in the process.
Yeah, one of the problems with new cons is not all cons are created equal. And that just may be the level of the volunteers. The volunteers may not necessarily be as well trained as those that are in the inner circle. So it doesn't surprise me that you had a little bit of static between dealing with different people. As you said, some people cared, some people didn't. You may have been getting cross interference with the actors' PR people, because sometimes, like, for example, I went to a convention about 4 years ago, and one of the actresses from My Little Pony was there. I'm not going to name names, but her PR rep was a fucking dick. And she was beautiful, nice, cordial, whatever, but she couldn't do anything because the rep had to okay everything.
Kind of like a certain company we know with certain people that we have to talk to.
Yeah, like it's just the way that the convention goes, and they have certain expectations, and I don't know. And sometimes with actors, when it comes down to pictures and getting stuff done, the con may promise if you do pictures, you are guaranteed X amount of dollars.
Which may be why they weren't allowing it.
Exactly. So maybe they promised, okay, you could. If you don't sell $600 worth of pictures, we'll comp the rest, sort of thing. So I wouldn't be so hard on them.
Well, I was more so hard on them because the communication for the entire convention and the stuff printed in their books were so all over the place.
Haphazard, yeah. That's what
that there was no, like, if it was a consistency across the board, I would have been fine because the expectations would have already been set.
It sounds to me like
But I've had a headache with them since the initial, sending that first image to get the pass in the first place. I've had a problem with them ever since, and everybody I talked to at the con was saying that communication with that convention sucks. And then last year, I guess, at their other convention that they ran, people paid for the premium pass so they could get right in the front to get the voice actors or the actors' autographs and photos and whatnot. And granted, you don't have to pay for autographs, just for general, like, whatever item you bring. Yeah. You don't have to pay for that. But if you want a picture with them kind of thing, you got to pay for that. But I guess some people were telling me that they weren't letting people take pictures with them anyway. And then they still kept the money.
Yeah, that's not exactly very ethical. Mind you, we don't have any concrete proof of that. So, but yeah, I can understand that. That's kind of shitty. Hopefully things will improve for these guys in the future. So when they host this again next year, things will be significantly better for them.
Now, I don't totally condemn them. Like I said, I don't hate them or anything, or wouldn't condemn them. But I myself, dependent on the guests next year, I probably won't be back to that convention. I'll probably go to a different one.
That's why you should come to Con Bravo. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could afford to get my butt to Canada, and
your dollar's worth way more than ours.
If they made me a guest and then we were on a panel together, I'd go. But
we'll talk. I'll see what I can do.
But yeah, that was kind of how my weekend went. So, any interesting anecdotes that you guys like to get into before we jump into some of the content?
Let me see. Well, had unfortunately a huge scare last night. As you guys know, my kitten, Dr. Wiley, is epileptic. Had his first seizure in like almost 6-7 months last night. Scared the shit right out of me because he normally sleeps on top of me under the covers or beside my head on my pillow last night. So he starts thrashing around. Obviously, I'm freaking the fuck out. So after like 2-3 minutes, his seizure stops. We take him to the vet today. So he's okay. He's got to get some blood work done tomorrow. Probably get his pills adjusted. But you don't know terror until you see basically your baby having a seizure. It's one of the most unpleasant experiences I can ever think of. I kind of get how parents must feel when their children get hurt or whatever. And I realize I'm comparing pets to kids, but I see Wiley as my kid. So,
Well, my previous dog that I had actually had seizures.
It's
so we had to
scary.
keep her on medication, and it freaked me out one time because she fell down the stairs. But
Yeah, Wiley sometimes, because he doesn't know where he is. It sounds funny, but it isn't. Obviously, he tries to run up the wall, and I guess because he's hallucinating or something. But yeah, like last night, he starts thrashing around, and when he comes out of his seizure, he's like kind of dopey for like 10 minutes. And this me and Blair did find funny. He just kept walking in a circle. It was kind of funny. So we took him to the vet today, and like I said, he's hopefully pretty good. They're going to do some blood work, see if there's any underlying issues, but the vet seems to think, he said, I'd be very surprised if there was anything else wrong. If there is, we'll obviously deal with it. So that's about, the most unpleasant thing I dealt with this past week. Other than that, I've had my head buried in D&D books for about the past week. We're doing something pretty big over on Terrible Warriors, recording on Sunday, so I'm in charge of that. So that's been fun, reading about the old D&D setting of Ravenloft, which is tremendously cool. Actually, no. Here is the anecdote, and a few of your audience members will probably get this. One of the big characters in Ravenloft is this guy named Count von Zarevitz. He's this vampire. He's this omnipresent, basically vampire god, right? If it happens in his domain, he knows about it. So I'm working through the adventure with Blair because she's nerd light. I'm like, okay, what is scary to you? So we're like talking back and forth. We're getting ideas, and I explain who this like Strahd guy is, and she's like, so he's like the Great Kazoo? I'm like, wait, what? The guy from the Flintstones. I'm like, no, he's not a teleporting green fucking alien. No. But, and yeah, so she turned one of the most badass D&D villains into the Great Kazoo from the fucking Flintstones. And now I can never disassociate the two. Scary vampire god to, hello, dum-dum. And it just, this is married life, people. Nerd icons destroyed.
And what's new with you, TFG1?
Oh, not much. In the process of recording and editing a 104 episode daily podcast we'll be putting out later this year, so that's pretty much all I've been working on.
Wait, you're recording daily stuff, but you're not putting it out till later?
He's doing 104 days of...
104 days of summer. It's based off of Phineas and Ferb. There were throughout the whole show, they say in the show that it's 104 days of summer. So the podcast is going to be 104 episodes, but we're pre-recording all the stuff.
So when would the 104 days start?
Well, that's the funny thing. This year, according to the summer solstice this year actually made Phineas and Ferb lie to us. This year there are only 93 days of summer. But we're starting to we'll start airing it June 20th. It'll end somewhere around September, October, somewhere around there.
That makes sense. Okay, just curious because obviously you always hear that with like radio stations. They're like, here's the blank amount of days of summer. I'm like, that doesn't make any mathematical sense. Yeah. But hey, what do I know?
Well, it's usually, I think it's sometime in September that the autumnal equinox happens, that you fall back and all that stuff. So technically for this year, it's summer is June to September. So
yeah, like
I'm having a blast doing that. And see, usually when I do the review podcasts, when we've done them in the past, or like Optimus Soul and I are still doing the Powers of Grayskull series stuff, so we usually go in depth and we can usually nitpick and analyze stuff. With Phineas and Ferb, most of the time it's 2 11-minute short cartoons, or it's 1 30-minute 2-part special or something. So there really isn't a whole lot to nitpick because the animation is consistently good, the writing is consistently good. So this is going with us having it be a daily podcast and only doing, talking about 2 11-minute cartoons. The general thing for me is it's probably going to be the shortest review podcast series in episode length that I've ever done, because we want to keep it, I would like to keep it right at or under 30 minutes per episode. Because going, 40 minutes for one 11-minute cartoon just seems kind of ridiculous.
So yeah, that seems a little bit excessive and obsessive.
Yeah.
Good work though. Trying to do that daily. That's I commend you for that, sir.
Well, see, the cool thing about it is because we're pre-recording all this, we're doing all the pre-production for it. We're recording 3 episodes every week at this point because we're keeping the episodes so short. Like normally with a TFG1 episode or with a Powers of Grayskull episode or a Showtime Synergy episode, if we're reviewing 3 cartoons in one podcast, depending on who the co-hosts are, we could be here for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. With myself and Michael, Michael Wilson, we're recording basically one full Phineas and Ferb episode per podcast. So what was it? There's an episode, season 1, there's an episode called Raging Bully, and is it Candace Loses Her Head? Okay, so those are 2 separate 11-minute cartoons. So that's one podcast right there. And then the next one would be 2 more episodes and whatever else. So, but it's essentially just one cartoon episode per podcast, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, just splitting it up and all that stuff. And let's see, what else have I been doing? Not much, just pretty much focusing on that right now. I did just record it. I'm late in editing it. I was trying to get a new promo from the author, but I haven't gotten it yet. I just did record with Nicole Hailstorm. We did IDW's new 5-issue miniseries. We did the first issue of Hot Damn. What this is a guy named Teddy Graham who went to hell for his sins, and it's basically the whole comic takes place in hell. It's a pretty interesting yet very gross kind of thing. You'd really like it, Mike. Honestly, you would.
Say, if it's weird, I'm there.
Yeah, that's what I've been up to.
So with that, we'll be back after a quick break.
Welcome to the Wicked Radio Network.
Want to interact with the show? You can contact us in the following ways. You can call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. You can email us feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can visit the episode post on geekcastradio.com or alteredgeek.com. You can get a hold of us on Twitter @Altered Geek. Look for us every week on geekcastradio.com, of course, Stitcher Smart Radio, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, and alteredgeek.com. And now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Altered Geek News Network.
And we're back. So, jumping into the AGNN, we have the Hasbro Cinematic Universe.
Oh no.
I like the idea behind it, but unless...
Now, have you read the article?
I've read a couple of this. I've read a couple of different ones on this. Now, they want to do Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Mask in the same...
Well, it's actually... This one's going to be separate from Transformers.
Okay.
It's going to be G.I. Joe, Micronauts, Visionaries, Mask, and ROM.
That's such a weird combination of properties. But Micronauts, that's interesting. That's got my attention.
I've never heard of ROM. I've just heard of the rest of it.
ROM he was a character in the 70s for Marvel. He was known as ROM the Space Knight.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned, I can't remember who I talked to, but it was somebody at Marvel. Yeah, it was somebody at Marvel. They were working on the role-playing game, which used to be licensed to a company called Margaret Weiss Productions. And this guy was writing the Cosmic Book, right? Which is like Annihilus, Kang, all that cosmic shit. And I'm like, dude, please tell me you have ROM the Space Knight. They're like, no, we don't have the rights to ROM anymore. So now I know where those rights ended up.
Well, and it's funny because Hasbro's studio is called Allspark Pictures.
Huh.
The other thing about ROM is IDW has the rights, and they're doing a comic series on him too.
I'm really hoping that this gets pulled off better than the other attempt at a cinematic universe with DC. But then again, if Hasbro takes it serious in terms of connecting it, but fun, I can see that this actually working. Although I'm curious to see how they're going to pull off Visionaries, though, because that cartoon was really weird.
Okay, well they've got this is kind of their group of people. They said that their writers' room has a Pulitzer Prize winner and Eisner winning comic book author, Marvel Studios scribes. They've got Michael Chabon, who worked on Spider-Man 2. Brian K. Vaughan worked on Y. You got Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel co-writer Nicole Perlman. Granted, none of these names mean anything to me. But they've got quite a few names. They got Akiva Goldsmith on board. They got there's a ton of names like that have been in a lot of other properties, but I don't know. It's one of those things that we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens when they start doing it. Because the only thing I can think is that, first of all, they need to reboot G.I. Joe and do it right. Granted, the second film was better than the first one.
Yeah.
But that's not saying much.
Yeah, I was about to say, I like parts of the first one.
I liked parts of the first one, too.
But the second one was way better. It was way more... It was a lot more fun. I actually had fun seeing that one.
The second one?
Yeah, especially when they had... Zartan as the president. He's like, look, I'm going to kill all of you, and you're not going to do a thing about it. That speech in, I guess it was the UN, is one of my favorite moments in cinema in, the last, 10 years. Because it's so over the top, and I love Jonathan Pryce.
The funny thing about the first G.I. Joe film is that probably about a week after the Paris attacks, I made a reference to the first G.I. Joe film. I was like, at least it wasn't nanites.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Mike.
He did too.
Too soon.
Is it really? So, and as we know, also, Hasbro did away with BotCon this year.
Yep.
And they've trademarked the application for HasCon.
That's so stupid.
Because they're going to have a massive convention with all of their properties as opposed to...
Does that include Star Wars?
No, because I don't have the rights to that.
I thought Hasbro did have Star Wars.
No, that's Disney.
Oh.
No, I'm saying as far as what they actually own,
right.
Like Transformers, My Little Pony, G.I. Joe.
Yeah, because those fandoms are going to work so great together.
Okay, here's the thing, and I think I said this at some other podcast I recorded recently. If they're going to do an all Hasbro convention and include at least these three fandoms, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and My Little Pony, they're going to need a space that at least has 100,000 square feet, because those three fandoms individually are huge. Getting all three of them together in one place, you're not going to be able to fit everybody.
If you did something like the Boston Convention Center for PAX, you could pull it off. Or wherever they hold PAX Prime out in Seattle. Or wherever they do Kamikaze in LA. And I don't know where they do New York Comic-Con, but that space might be able to accommodate it. I don't know. It seems kind of risky to put all three of those properties together. Yeah. Or all those things under one thing. I mean, honestly, they would serve their communities better by having them separate.
Yep. Since Steve brought it up, yes, FunPub no longer had the license for BotCon, so BotCon is ending. BotCon was here in my own town. I didn't actually go to the convention, but I just released an episode of All Things Transformers where I talked to 3 different people who actually did go to the convention. One of the news items, or not news items, but one of the little behind-the-scenes tidbits that I found out about BotCon, if FunPub had the license for next year, They were going to put it back out in Pasadena, and they were going to get both Peter Cullen and Frank Welker to go.
That would have been cool.
That would have been really cool. But this year's BotCon, from the people that I talked to, it just seemed like there was no presence from anybody there. Like, yeah, they had the guests. They had Judd Nelson. They had David Kaye. They had Greg Berger. They had, they had the normal kind of guests and all that stuff, but very few panels. IDW was actually at Emerald City Comic-Con the weekend of BotCon. So it's like there really was, and they didn't even announce anything because it's the last bot. They didn't announce any new toys or anything. So all the new Transformer stuff that's supposed to be coming out eventually, we can only assume that they're going to use San Diego to announce new toys.
That's kind of a shitty way to treat a convention that has done you nothing but favors. That's kind of
that being said, they charge you and nickel dime you for everything.
Oh God!
I went to TFCon, which is Canadian run, and I had the best experience at a convention in my life.
Because we do hospitality right.
Well, it was not only the hospitality, but people like I didn't even know in person anyway that knew me from Twitter or from All Things Transformers or whatever were coming up and saying, "Hey, Steve Megatron," or Almighty Megatron. I'm like, "Hi, who the hell are you?" and it was just great, and then getting to meet Scott McNeil and not having to pay for an autograph. It was just all included, and then I got pictures with him, and he BS'd with me for like 10 minutes. But just stuff like that in general, and then the whole day was just awesome. I mean, granted, it wasn't huge, but there was still plenty to do.
Yeah.
And BotCon, granted, was huge, and there was a lot of stuff to see and a lot of stuff to that you can look at or buy or whatever. It just everything cost, and it price pointed me out.
That's really unfortunate too, and I guess that's just the way. That's just, I guess, the way the corporate culture kind of works. Eventually, the almighty dollar speaks more so than the friendly handshake and the hug.
Well, and the other thing too is like some of those exclusive figures that they sell at the con. You would think eventually they would sell like at least another like release of it somewhere. And when I say that, I mean like this is the second BotCon that I've gotten screwed out of a new Megatron figure.
Yeah.
They had Transmetal 3 Megatron, man. It was out of it's basically the Transformers Red figure.
Yeah.
And they designed this look years ago.
Yeah.
Like right after the last BotCon that had to do with Beast Wars, which was 2006.
Yeah.
There was a design coloring of it.
See this?
And I've wanted this figure, and then after watching it floating around on Twitter after the convention, that figure is already $800 on eBay.
Yeah.
Probably because they do such a limited run. I guess the reason why you don't see so many on the secondary market is because the number is extremely limited, because I'm guessing BotCon has to pay out of pocket to produce those figures to get the molds retooled and whatever.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean,
all it is a repaint with a new head sculpt.
Yeah, that's really all they do is like if you look at the Ravage figure, the Ravage is a repaint of like a Sunstreaker version, and then they just sculpt a new head. So really the only thing new on the figure is the head. And the head I saw Optobotomus's review of the Ravage and Tarantulas. The Ravage,
They're flat.
Huh?
They're flat.
Yeah. The Ravage head, it's like it has Ravage's face from Beast Wars and all that stuff, but the back of the head it's as flat as a brick. It just makes no sense. Like, how is that a head sculpted? Oh God.
Not all figures are created equal.
Nope.
That sucks.
What's interesting about BotCon is it almost had a 20-year lifespan. It started in 1997.
Wow.
Yep.
That's friggin' nuts. I'm really sad I didn't get a chance to go. Actually, one of my guys from Twig, Michael Ryan, went to it last week. Man, if you can check out his thing over on thisweekingeek.net for his perspective on the con. I had no idea this was the last one, though.
Actually, it's been going on since '94, Mike.
Oh wow, still that's a hell of a time.
The Hartman brothers sold it to Hasbro.
That's yeah.
At some point later, but
no, I mean, I think for me, the only draw for me was something that had. It was a BotCon thing, but you didn't have to be a BotCon registrant to go to it because they put it in a place where they have free concerts here all the time called 4th Street Live. Stan Bush and Vince DiCola in concert. 6-year-old me was just screaming out loud. That was awesome.
Did you actually get a chance to hang out with them?
No. But still, just because when I was standing, because we were, the way 4th Street Live is the way 4th Street is, most of it's cobblestone because it's entertainment district. So they don't normally allow cars to drive down this part. So there used to be this whole glass enclosed mall in between two buildings. A number of years ago, they destroyed the bottom half of the mall. They left the top part of the glass enclosure. And then they put in all new restaurants and stores. Like there's a TGI Fridays down there. There's a Lucky Strike bowling alley. There's Hard Rock Cafe Louisville. And right in that area is where they put the stage. And we were 3 rows of people from right being at the front of the stage. In the middle, it's kind of like a Transformers mosh pit if you want. So looking at Stan on the stage and then looking at him up on the screen, it's like, oh, hey, up on the screen, it's like, vintage 80s Stan looking thing. And then looking at him, as he's actually performing, it's like, oh, that's what the guy is like in real life. But no, we didn't get a chance to, because what had happened was it had because he went through all of his stuff. He went through stuff from In This Life. He went through stuff from Dream the Dream. He went through stuff from the Ultimate. Then obviously he played the classics like Till All Are One and Dare and The Touch. We all thought The Touch was going to be the last song, and then he went back and played something else. By the time he got to like the 3rd verse of that last song, it started raining.
Nice.
So I didn't get a chance because my friend Amy, who was here in town, she was the one that took me to the thing, and she had to get back to her vacation rental, and I had to get home. So it was friggin' raining. So I'm like, oh, okay, well that's it. And I would have loved to have been able to, at least go up and shake Stan's hand. But just seeing him and Vince in a concert, Vince DiCola in a concert together, that's a 30-year-old, that's a 32, 33-year-old dream, from the 80s. So it was a very, very cool concert.
Awesome.
Yep.
So, yeah. I think moving on, we'll get to the Jason Bourne trailer.
Woo! This actually looks pretty freaking cool. Because the last one just had Hawkeye yelling at computer screens for like 2 hours.
And like, oh, I don't have to take my pills anymore to be a super spy.
Yeah, see, I never got that too. I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen the original 3, because what the hell was the one with Hawkeye? What was that?
Legacy?
Legacy. Yeah,
that was Legacy.
Had some cool stunts in it though, but overall sucked.
It wasn't a terrible film. It just wasn't particularly good either.
So boring. That's the only action spy movie I fell asleep in.
The problem with Legacy, outside of, the problem with Legacy is how the story is set up. It's set up as it's supposed to be taking place at the same time as the Bourne Ultimatum, which was the 3rd and final one that Matt Damon had done. So it's supposed to be taking place at the same time as that movie is taking place. That was the biggest mistake they could have ever done as far as writing that script for Legacy. Like, you can reference Jason Bourne, you can reference that he's there or whatever else. Don't have that story of a film, that you're. When did that movie come out? When did Legacy come out? I don't even friggin' remember.
2009.
2009.
Okay, and the last.
No. It was later than that because I had been moved up here.
Maybe it was 2011.
Yeah,
okay, it was 2011. I think the last Bourne Ultimatum was 2007, maybe.
Something like that.
So, okay, so let's say a 4-year gap between Ultimatum and Legacy. You got to be kidding me. Give me a break. Why are you going to give us a movie that takes place at the same time as the previous movie, yet without really giving us an original storyline? Like, what they should have done was they should have taken Hawkeye's character and they could reference Jason Bourne and the Legacy, because the whole Treadstone thing and Blackbriar and whatever else, they could have referenced that and whatever else, but just create a whole new story with that character. Don't have it set at the same time as the previous damn movie.
I can't remember, but there's like a very famous quote, and it comes from filmmaking, so maybe Steve knows it, but it goes something along the lines of, never mention a better movie than the movie you're currently in. Sort of thing, and that's kind of what I'm getting the thing here. Like, Jason Bourne's 10 times more interesting. Why do I care about you, Hawkeye? I've been invested in you for an hour and 45 minutes. I've been invested in Matt Damon for 3 movies.
Yeah.
Why do I care? And that's about, like, is setting something at the same time as something else, unless your story's really something gangbusters, it's such a risk, because it has the potential to be outclassed by the story, the side story it's trying to be a part of. Mm-hmm. It's like telling a story during, say, Star Wars, for example. It's like, let's hear what happened to the Rebel Alliance soldiers after they got Princess Leia's ship. Okay, that's cool, but I care about the Death Star plans. You know what I mean? I don't care about Trooper 8147 or something. Yeah.
So Jason Bourne, the new movie, it looks amazing.
Yeah, there are some pretty cool looking stunts in that trailer.
And I love how they make him just look so hardcore, like when he's just pounding that guy at the end.
Yeah.
It just knocks him out.
He's like, come at me, bro. That was cool.
And it's almost like ting, he just metals him in the face or something. Like it was just crazy how
I can't remember the last movie I saw Matt Damon in.
The Martian was the last one.
Yeah, Martian and Elysium maybe are the 2 ones I can think of.
I saw this pretty good meme earlier going around that somebody said that it's a Jason Bourne movie. Or it says, guys, we need a new poster for the new Matt Damon film. Any ideas? And then it's got him for Elysium, Martian, and Jason Bourne. And it's all like his mugshot looking at the camera. Like a close-up of his face.
Oh, sweet.
And then they've just got text over it, like the name of the movie's at the bottom, and then there's just text like the Elysium says he can save us all, and then it says Elysium, and then it says bring him home, the Martian. You know his name, Jason Bourne.
Yeah, that's really, really lazy poster design. See, that's why I miss getting like the Harry Potter type posters or the old Star Wars type. Anything that was drawn by Drew Struzan is amazing. Half the movie posters today are lazy Photoshop, or they're just random photo mashups. And that sucks.
Yeah.
The coolest thing to these things.
Well, the coolest thing.
Oh yeah.
The coolest thing for me on the Bourne trailer was I wasn't expecting them to bring Julia Stiles' character back, because I haven't seen her in stuff in a long time. I don't know what the last movie was that I saw her in.
Yeah, I can't.
The last Bourne movie?
Probably.
I kind of wonder now. No, I think she did like a romantic comedy or 2 after that. I think she's done maybe television, but even
maybe
then,
Lifetime
I'm not
or
sure.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look her up real quick while you guys are talking about that. But yeah, the Jason Bourne trailer looked actually really, really good.
It did.
The action's on par, and then plus you got Paul Greengrass, so like it's gonna be really good. Because he did the other Jason Bourne films.
Yeah, it should be up to the quality that we've come to expect. And Matt Damon came back specifically because he was going to do it.
Yep.
So it's not going to be, oh, this sucks. Like, oh, you're the guy I know and trust with this project. So awesome. Let's make some magic, people.
She was in Silver Linings Playbook. That's the most recent popular one that she's done before the book.
2012, maybe?
Yeah.
That was 2012. She's done quite a few other projects. She's been in the Mindy Project. She's been in like a bunch of other movies that are coming out in 2016 and that came out in 2015, but nothing that was like anything kind of big.
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
she's done quite a bit of TV, but the movies she's done are like things that nobody probably would really know unless it's something obscure.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then of course the other part of movie news that we had this week was the new Rita Repulsa. And before you guys say your thoughts on this, my thoughts are, just looking at this, is it reminds me of like Power Rangers and space villains. Compared to the original Rita Repulsa, it kind of gives me that vibe. But if she's a space witch, the other like Muppet looking costume doesn't really look all that great either.
She reminds me of a hotter Diva Talks.
That's kind of what I thought.
And I'm totally okay with that. I actually kind of like it. I think it looks cool. I want to see what the Ranger helmets are going to look like specifically. But I don't know. I don't think it's a terrible design. I hope they show something at Comic-Con this year, or at least like a brief 15-second teaser or something.
Oh, if the movie's coming out next year, I'm sure by Comic-Con, or at least by, if not San Diego, at least by New York in October, they'll have some sort of trailer or, not all movies can be the BS that is BVS with a 3-year marketing campaign. So I'm sure they'll show us something. They actually did show us the quote unquote logo of the film, and it's not exactly inspiring. It kind of reminds me of the old the RPM logo a little bit.
See, I don't get the point of showing logos to movies like that if it's just, I'm sure you know what they're showing you, a font.
Yeah.
And I think that's so stupid. Show me a poster. Don't show me a font. Don't show me what's in essence in Microsoft Word. But yeah.
I don't know. My first reaction was, it doesn't matter what she looks like, because unless it's Barbara Goodson doing the voice, like any of the because I know there were at least 2 different actresses in the original show that were actually in the Rita costume, but it was always Barbara Goodson's voice that really sold the character for me. So seeing Elizabeth Banks as Rita, I'm like, okay, it's Rita. Loki and Poison Ivy had a kid, and that's what it came out to be.
I'm very curious to see now. Do we have any idea on what this movie is going to be rated?
No.
See, if they go for PG-13 and it's semi-serious, depending on how she portrays it, this might actually be kind of cool, because I really like her in the Hunger Games movie. She plays, I think it's Effie, I want to say.
Yep. And that's why she looks so freaking weird.
Yeah, so I'm okay with it. I mean, at least it's inspired casting, because she can ham it up when she needs it. She can nail weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Easily.
I'm excited. Who knows?
So yeah, moving on a little bit more. Has anybody been watching any of the Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans back and forth stuff?
Yes.
All I've seen is the Iron Man one where he's messing with the Eiffel Tower. That's the only.
I watched that one the other day.
Yeah.
What other ones exist?
The one with the donuts.
I haven't seen that one. Oh, and I randomly saw one where it's like a car commercial where they're chasing down the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Which I actually thought that was a clip from the movie. I'm thinking, that's actually kind of clever. But no, it's just a car commercial.
Just a car commercial. The funny thing and the ironic thing about Robert Downey Jr. is supposedly he is now cast in Spider-Man Homecoming.
No, he is.
Oh, yeah. Officially confirmed.
Yeah.
But Batman dropped out, which is unfortunate.
See, I'm fine with that. Like, somebody was jokingly trying to get clickbait, but he posted an image next on Marvel's list, and it has Val Kilmer, George Clooney, and Christian Bale. That'd
be kind of funny. Actually, I'm trying to think. Christian Bale, I don't know. Can't think of anybody he would fit. But if you could get me Val Kilmer 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. So, anybody see the story about the fact that they're going to do a Cruel Intentions television series now with Sarah Michelle Gellar?
And she's reprising her role.
Reprising her role as Catherine. The only problem I have with this is that apparently Reese Witherspoon is too busy to come back as Annette, and they recast the role to be somebody else. I don't have a problem with the fact that they recast it. What?
But say Reese Witherspoon is fairly successful, whereas Sarah Michelle Gellar is not really doing a whole hell of a lot.
Well, the funny thing is the way that the article reads about what the plot is of the series, it's, she's now married to some wealthy businessman or whatever else, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's Ringer all over again. Don't get me wrong. I love the CW show Ringer when it came on, and it only lasted one season, but it's like, why do we need a Cruel Intentions TV series now when the film...
Yeah, this seems like 15 years too late.
Well,
yeah,
they're doing it as it's a continuation years later, but this isn't really any different. They've been doing, like, look at Minority Report, look at
Scream. Scream was
Scream.
different.
Look at except they reinvented it with that, so that's a little bit different. Then you have what is that one with Bradley Cooper where he gets
Limitless.
Limitless. You got that. You got they tried to do The Firm into a TV show.
They have Rush Hour now.
They got Rush Hour. I mean, movies are coming to TV.
Yeah, no, I know. And I, like I said, I'm not like down on this. I'm just saying, why is it now that the Cruel Intentions television series is happening? Like, why didn't this happen like 4 or 5 years ago or whatever?
Because sex sells now
Because
and it didn't
Sarah
sell
Michelle
then.
Gellar has to pay back a massive student loan, and she needs work. That's my guess.
She did voiceover for that. Star Wars paid her good.
Yeah, I forgot she was the Inquisitor. That's right.
Have you seen the season finale?
No, I'm working my way through it. Thank you.
All right, then I'll shut my mouth.
But yeah, like, I don't know. What a weird choice for a series, though. Like, I remember years back, there was talk of them doing, for example, like they wanted to do a Friday the 13th series based on the movies, and I think that's still happening at some point. I know they were going to do a series based on Night of the Living Dead, but now we have Walking Dead, so who cares? Which, fuck that season finale, by the way. I don't know. It's just such a weird choice for a movie to pick up so many years later. Because nobody, at least who's in their target market, has likely seen it. They're looking at purely nostalgia. Man, fuck that, man. Fucking give me Buffy 10, 15 years later. Even if it was only a 10-episode series.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, I think, and I could be wrong about this, but my personal opinion is they're trying to erase the stigma that whatever random studio did the stupid sequels.
Yeah.
There were Cruel Intentions 2 and Cruel Intentions 3. Now, don't get me wrong. Cruel Intentions, it's an okay movie. It's an interesting movie for its time. I enjoyed it, but I don't see why it needed a sequel. It's kind of like the same thing with Wild Things. Wild Things is not a great movie at all, but the sequels to that are just horrible.
All I know is lesbian kissing. I'm totally down for that. I'm just going to say what everybody's thinking here. Come on. But yeah, they were not great movies by any stretch of the imagination. Entertaining for whatever reason. But
well, what was it? I think it was, and I'm sorry for derailing this, Steve, but I think it was the third Wild Things movie that essentially just ripped off the first film's plot and just recast the damn thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
You know what? Someone needed to launder some money for that, I'm guessing. Because it's very rare you get a really good direct-to-DVD sequel. It happens from time to time, but not often. Yeah. And why the hell did this movie deserve a sequel? Who was in line saying, I really wonder what happens if? Fuck that guy.
I'm interested. I'll check out the show when it comes on. I'll see if I'll enjoy it. But see, I think Cruel Intentions is one of those movies that it's a one and done. It told its story, beginning, middle, and end, and it has a really kind of crappy ending considering Sebastian dies. But it's just one of those things where it was a complete piece of cinema. there was no loose ends. There was no, it wasn't even tied up too quickly or anything like that. It just ended on, a semi all right finishing point.
You know what? It'd be funny if they find a way to bring him back.
Oh God, they'll force ghost him,
or like I faked my death. Mwah, twirly mustache.
I don't think you can fake your death from being hit by a taxi cab.
I don't know, man.
It's television. They can write anything.
Tell you, man. Or it'll be like Evil Twin or something. God, man. I want to write for this TV show just to see how stupid I can make it.
Speaking of TV shows,
yes.
We were kind of discussing off air the way of making a show with 13 episodes as opposed to, and we've kind of brought up this train a few times on the show, but I forget which show specifically we were talking about.
Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what you were going to talk about. Was Game of Thrones.
I was about to say, yeah. So it's been revealed. So as you guys know, Game of Thrones comes back this Sunday on HBO for its 10-episode season. Now, the deal is currently in place at HBO to do another 2 seasons. But the showrunners have basically come out and said, we can't do this show anymore. It's getting too expensive. It's tying up the actors' schedules. We're going to have to wrap it up in 13 episodes. So they're talking about having a 6-episode season and a 7-episode season over the next 2 years, which kind of sucks but then again, at the same time, George R.R. Martin hasn't even finished writing the book the new season is based on. So literally,
he did have to give an outline though before he.
Well, yeah, like he's got ideas, I guess. Which I don't know. It's so weird though because he's had like years to finish this. So literally,
he's a Brit. He's lazy.
So HBO is not screening anything for critics, which is a surprise. But then again, when there was that big leak, I think it was last season, people got kind of pissy, and I get that. So everything on TV now will be completely new. We'll have maybe a few vague ideas, stuff that didn't get adapted from like other seasons. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of wonder if maybe shorter television's the way to go. And here's why. You look at a show like The Walking Dead, for example. It has, I want to say, 16 episodes. It does 8 during its first 8 during its first half, and then 8 in the kind of back half. Better Call Saul, I want to say, is like 10 episodes as well. Doctor Who does 13 and a Christmas special. And shorter television means you get typically better product because you can put more money into the sets, the actors, and whatever else you can. The money's there on screen. Look at Daredevil. Look at Jessica Jones.
Yeah, but those aren't. Well, they are 13 episodes, but those are Daredevil and Jessica Jones. That's Netflix, and what they do.
It doesn't matter. It's still a 13 episode.
No, I know, but
it's money. Basically, what I'm saying, you see it up on the screen.
Right.
With HBO, you get
in the case of Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and that stuff. That's on broadcast. Like Daredevil, they film all that stuff. Get it all done, and then give us a release date for the whole series. Whereas Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, you have to wait week to week to week. And I'm sure at some point, not necessarily the mid-season finale, but at some point, somewhere along the lines, and I'll tie this into Flash, Arrow, and Legends here in a minute, they have a break at some point for like a week or 2 or something. Like,
yeah, but that's the station itself that has a break.
Yeah.
They have to follow those guidelines, whereas Netflix doesn't have to follow that.
Nope.
I don't know. Like, I like shorter seasons. I don't like the wait, but I'd rather have higher quality TV than quantity of TV. For example,
I agree because like a lot of the shows, it seems like I think like for instance, everybody gives Arrow crap. I think Arrow would be much better if it had a shorter season.
Absolutely, because you get less filler.
Well, everybody gives Arrow crap nowadays because everybody is sick of the Oliver Felicity thing. That's the entire.
It's not even that. It's the fact that they got the flashbacks, what they're gonna do away with, and unless they're like pertaining to the story,
yeah,
directly, and then then, the fact that they just got a bunch of throwaway stuff in the middle that's just wasting time.
Yeah, I mean, one show that did this right, and it's such an extreme example, but follow me. Dragon Ball Z Kai. Dragon Ball Z Kai cuts out all the filler episodes and re-edits everything to be a more concise product. If you could do that with a show like Arrow, have it be more concise and be shorter, I would be a lot more interested in watching that as opposed to, oh yeah, here's more filler.
Well, plus you're not wasting your life watching 22 episodes, and you'll watch 13 instead.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. And honestly, if we have shorter seasons, that means more stuff might get greenlit. Other than, hey, we have to fill this for X amount of episodes. I mean...
And then it gets canceled.
Yeah, like, honestly, give me shorter stuff. Like, for example, Constantine, when that show was on the air, it was starting to get good around the 13-episode mark, but it wasted its friggin' time because it has to fill a broadcast schedule. And television broadcast schedules, they're going the way of the dinosaur because everybody wants their content on demand anyway. Despite the fact Netflix, I think, took a 10% hit this week for its stock prices.
Which is going to not matter because they're going to be they're raising their prices.
Yeah, which even if you were grandfathered, your price is now kind of going up too.
Well, they're still going to make 10 times the amount that they're going to lose from people canceling over those $2.
Oh yeah, which, and to kind of touch on something else for a second here, about 6 months ago, Netflix had announced they were going to crack down on VPN users, people that like kind of jump borders to access content. Like, for example, you guys know I used to jump to US Netflix via my VPN. They've cut that off now. I can't access US Netflix anymore, but I can still access Hulu and all the other services. So thank God for that. But you kind of wonder if that's going to start to play a factor too, because all these streaming services are starting to offer original content, like Netflix, like Hulu. CBS is doing Star Trek. Maybe this is the way television's going to start to go. We're going to have a la carte services. You pay for what you want. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think the idea of over the air or through cable, it's always going to be there, but it's going to start to radically change in about the next 10 years.
See, that's the one thing that I just don't get with certain channels and stuff. Okay, so I pay $21 a month for Netflix and Hulu Plus. I'm more than fine with that. It's better than paying, 200 and something for 2,000 channels or whatever it is with Time Warner Cable here in Kentucky. So, what bugs me is channels like A&E or Disney Channel, who basically you go to their things and you want to see the latest broadcast episodes like 2 days later or a week later or whatever else. Oh no, you must have a cable or satellite provider sign in. You must have an actual cable package to watch that content. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Give me a break over here.
Yeah, because like a friend of mine in the States gave me his cable login so I can access FX, Fox, Sci-Fi Channel, and some other stuff. I was about to say, why not just allow me to pay $5 a month to access your content? Because it's not like your catalog's that big online to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm actually going to turn on my Xbox right now, and let's see what's on Sci-Fi Channel right now. Because that's a service you need a cable provider to sign into. And I can't remember the last time I used it.
I mean, see, that's the thing, though. That's what I don't understand is, why is it that these channels are saying that when you go to, and I know they're technically cable channels, when you go to like the CW or you go to Fox or you go to NBC or ABC or CBS. I know ABC for a fact. I was going to watch that Captain America 75, whatever the hell that special was. And they're like, oh, sorry, for people that aren't subscribed to ABC, it'll be available in a week. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But it's, I don't know. I just don't understand the whole, I just don't understand or agree with the whole you must have a cable package in order to watch something online from a certain channel's website. That's just stupid.
I think it's them it's their attempt to give you added value. But for those that have already cut the cable, it's incentive for them to reattach it, I guess. But that's
Not really.
because that's only going to drive people towards piracy, torrents, and other sort of streaming services. Okay, I can't boot up Sci-Fi right now for whatever reason, but its selection is anemic, to say the least. Like, there should be no reason why I should have to have a cable subscription for maybe 20 shows. Sure, there may be seasons of crap, but it sucks.
Yeah. Or, okay, so most of, even CBS, NBC, and ABC do this, most of their content is only there unless you're paying for it. Most of the free content, because normally I go to CBS for obviously Supergirl and that kind of stuff. Most of it's only there for a week or so. Okay, so here's my thing. Why don't the cable companies, Time Warner, Comcast, whoever, why don't they offer you, like you said, Mike, a $5, $10, $15 on-demand package that you can just go on their website and pay that money, just like a Netflix subscription or whatever else, to watch the stuff on the website without having to have an actual cable box or what. That's what I don't understand is why don't they have an online package version?
I think it comes down to advertising mostly, and a lot of people don't understand a lot of the on-demand stuff now because it's a scary world for advertisers who depend upon that money to keep the friggin' lights on. So I kind of think that's why. Like up here in like Canada, for example, you can watch, like, we have a channel called Global, we have a channel called City. Global does a lot of CBS stuff, NBC, and Fox stuff. So you can watch everything on their website. Actually, Mike, I should just get a login for one of these stations up here. You can watch everything in like one place. But they offer it there because other streaming services have things locked down, and that's why you're seeing content get taken away from Hulu, content get taken away from Netflix. And that's why we're getting the launches of all these smaller streaming services, because they're looking for new revenue streams. And I don't think they know precisely what the hell they're doing. I think they're going to drive people away.
See, that's the thing with Hulu. Hulu does, and Hulu Plus, the paid subscription part of Hulu, does an interesting thing. If you pay $12 a month, $11.99, you get completely ad-free, no ads whatsoever in the shows.
And you can add on stuff like Showtime.
Yeah. But so you get completely ad-free, and depending on the show, they'll add like older shows. Like I'm currently going through the TNT cop drama Rizzolian Isles because it's set in Boston and I'm from Boston and all that stuff. But anyway, so I can watch all 5 seasons of that on Hulu at any time I want. But with the shows that run currently, like Flash or Legends or Arrow or Gotham or The Voice or whatever, they put a cap on how long those new episodes are up, and then they take them down, which is fine. I don't because I think the way Hulu does it is they expect anyone that is a cord cutter like me to watch it the next day after it originally airs, and then not have to. I think that's, I could be wrong, but I think that's how Hulu might calculate their numbers, is how many people are watching the next day that may not have been able to see it on television the night that it aired.
Yeah, that really wouldn't surprise me, actually.
Are you up over there, Steve?
Yep, I'm still awake.
Broadcast it's changing so quickly.
Yeah.
And I wonder what it's going to be like when, say, Steve's kid grows up. What is their entertainment landscape going to look like? Because like all of us here, we're all past, except Steve, you're not past 30.
He will be
I will be in June.
Okay, so all right, so we're all basically past 30. So we grew up in the era of the color television, in the era of cable television, satellites, and the DVR. And now we're seeing how online is changing that landscape now.
Yeah.
And the people that were in charge in the 80s and the 90s, they're starting to retire. So the people our age are starting to come into positions of power. Finally, hopefully, thank God. And we're going to see how things are going to balance out, because Netflix is still a fairly young service. I mean, it's been around since the 90s, but it wasn't until its streaming services were offered around the mid-2000s that things really started to change. We see Hulu get constantly mentioned, and the fact that we're seeing original content from these streaming providers really says something. Now, Sony's tried to get Crackle off the ground for God knows how long, and
It's garbage.
it's garbage.
It doesn't, like, it stalls out when you're watching stuff.
Yeah, which is really weird, the fact that they do it. Give me 2 minutes of commercials at the beginning and 2 minutes at the end, and I'm fine. But yeah, like, and hell, the fact that they pushed Crackle during the Ghostbusters trailer that came out last month, God, I found that really weird and jarring. But it doesn't, that hasn't succeeded yet. Netflix, Hulu, and the other services are fairly successful. Hell, even Fox's service does something fairly unique. If you go to their FX Now service, they have a thing where it's nothing but Simpsons.
Yep.
Pure Simpsons from 1989 to now.
Yep.
They even have a button that says Random Simpsons, which is amazing. Like, you can sit there and literally watch The Simpsons every day for the next, like, years.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you're going to see with the spectrum of digital media coming in the future is with all of these stations, you're going to start seeing them step away from the cable providers for the most part. You're going to see them come out with their own apps, their own streaming services, much like HBO, much like CBS. You're probably going to see less of them partner with Hulu and Netflix, although Hulu is partly owned by 3 different stations. It's like NBC, Fox, and like ABC or something. But so, I mean, you're going to see stuff still go to that probably. But you're probably going to see a lot less stuff go to Netflix and services like that, because they're going to start coming up with their own stuff. And the benefit of them doing that is, granted, I'm not happy about it, but the benefit of them doing it is they will know, like, what type of episodes people like to watch, what type of show people like to watch.
They'll have hard data.
Well, they'll have hard data, and they'll be able to actually see, much like people can see when they do YouTube videos, they'll be able to find the analytics of when people shut it off, what offended them, what kept them watching through to the end of that episode, you know. And whereas TV, most of us have it on as background filler, and there's no way to record what is actually going on.
Yeah.
Because if we're on the digital media, 9 times out of 10, we're going to shut it off when we're done watching it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, there is a certain engagement window. And one of the things I forgot to mention, now Amazon Prime, which is, you get free 2-day service if you pay like $70 a year, whatever. Now they've split the video service from that for $8 a month. Have you ever looked at the Amazon Prime selection of shit?
No.
It sucks. I don't see how they're trying to compete with a Netflix for being $1 cheaper. Now, admittedly, they do have some good TV shows on there, but not enough when you compare it to Hulu and stuff like that. And we've already seen one streaming service collapse. That was the Yahoo one. And that had the 6th season of Community exclusively on there.
Well, seeing Yahoo, they're on their way out anyway. They've been on their way out for the last 15 years.
And it sucks, though, because you see a company because Yahoo, all things considered, is still fairly big. And the fact that they were able to grab a property like that and it got flushed down the toilet is unfortunate. And Amazon has tried to launch its own pilots. I remember they had like a Zombieland pilot like a couple of years ago. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how things all kind of balance out. Certain television stations and providers will be more successful than others. Like, for example, I know Warner Brothers has one, and Sony has one where you can access a lot of their back catalog of TV and movies, but not a lot of people know about them. Hell, even Sony just launched one recently where you can stream 4K movies, but it's like $30-$40 a month or something like that. Or maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but it's ridiculous to say the least. I like the way this is going, and I don't like the way it's going.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more stuff on my credit card month to month. Fuck.
Not me. But speaking of which, I'm in my filmmaking class right now, which has been, or my screenwriting class, which has been kind of interesting. We're in the final 9 days now at this point.
Kitty!
Shut up, cat. Yeah, so we're in the final 9 days of the class. I have, we had to write a short film. We had to write, which was like 15 pages or less. And then we had to write several different, like, little, he'd give us a theme, like you had to write about a gift or a seduction scene or a dinner scene or something like that. And I've had this overarching theme, like I've mentioned before, that I write with purpose. And if I write with purpose, it means I'm going to use it later. And so I basically I wrote all of those type of stories with the intention of that they would tie into my TV pilot at the end of the season semester.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had the characters created since last year when I took the superhero certificate class. I've had a lot of the premise for the stuff created back then. I created the artificial town. I've created the super suits. I've created their appearances. I've created like a lot of the stuff. So I've been world building over the last year anyway. So I was wanting to flesh this out as a novel. And the way I see it is if I flesh it out as a screenplay first, I could work backwards and fill in the gaps later, because I'll have a more of a step outline than I had when I started. But we have to write this 1 hour TV pilot. And so I'm using these stories and I'm writing it. And it's, of course, superhero in nature, but it's I'm trying to do something different than the shows that are currently on the air, because I figure when I get done with this that I'm going to pay to copyright it and then try and pitch it. With the concept that it would be a 13-episode season. But yeah,
that'd be cool.
That's what I've been kind of trying to like figure out how I'm going to work this out. And like a lot of the stuff that I originally planned to do has changed since I wrote it. And we had to write character bios for the teachers. Like in my doing so, I managed to put some of the characters I fleshed out pretty well. And then a few of them, there were things that I don't quite know what I'm going to do with them yet. I mean, I know enough, but in how they're portrayed in this first episode, but I don't know how they're going to play later on. So I put like for a lot of the stuff like unknown and for their information, because it gives categories, we had to put like information. And then I put at the bottom of the document, I'm like, yeah, some of these I don't know. I'm just going to let them write themselves when they go into the story. So, but yeah, so I've been working on that. So, funny thing, like I said, I'm able to use a couple of those scenes again that I wrote earlier in the semester, which will actually fill my second act of my screenplay. So then I'm almost done with the first act. I'll have to fill in some gaps in Act 2, and then Act 3 and 4 I'll have to write completely, which will be interesting. But yeah, I gotta write this 60-page plot, and it's coming out pretty well, I think.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks. So when I get it copyright, I might publish part of it on the site and let people read and gander, or pieces of it. So, anything you guys would like to pimp out before we go?
This past week I finally got around to posting that boss roll that I've been talking about, as this week was Depression Awareness Week. So if you want to go check that out, I tell you the story of Dean Depression, how RPG saved my life. So I get kind of serious for about half an hour on that. And actually, it actually got started because there's this community up in Northern Ontario called Attawapiskat, and I really recommend people check that out. They basically, the entire town tried to kill itself over the past couple of weeks. I think over the last 2 weeks, they've had 30 kids try to kill themselves.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that kind of got me thinking about that, and I actually contacted an RPG company. I'm not going to name them because it's not my story to tell, but I told them about the situation and how it saved my life, and they're like, you know what, we're going to put together a package and send some stuff up, because there is this meme going around Facebook right now where they advise you, if you want to send letters, words of encouragement, or even small gifts to help these young people kind of realize life doesn't suck, you can do that. So like I said, look up Atawapiscat. I'm sure you'll be able to find it if you just Google that. And yeah, so coming up for me, Nerd News will probably be up very late Sunday because I have a bunch of work to do for Terrible Warriors this week. Still doing the Sailor Moon Dragon Ball Z thing for the May show, and then I'm working on D&D Ravenloft for another project that we're currently working on. We're actually working with one of the guys from the podcast Illusionoid, which I think has won several podcasting awards and several comedy awards. Very, very funny guys. So yeah, that's what I got coming up in the next little bit. I don't know what game I'm going to be reviewing for Rad next. I was going to do Star Fox Zero, but I'd rather dip my nuts in acid than review that game. Okay, here's my short review. Go back, play Star Fox 64, be thankful for that.
For me, let's see. Like I said, we got the first issue review of Hot Damn over inside the pull bag. I am just working on, I've got to edit, let's see, 7 podcasts. I've got to edit episode 4 to 11 of the Phineas and Ferb review show, so that's what I'll be working on. Coming up, waiting on a bunch of email replies, but coming up before our 7-year anniversary for GCRN, I'm gonna be doing the top 9s of the 90s for Geekcast Radio episode 91 and 99. So planning that. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
And as for myself, I'll be finishing my screenplay and having that next week. And then among those things, I'll probably be playing some games online, such as Battlefield 4. And we have, if you're looking for me on there, you can look for Steve Megatron. And also going on right now, we have the top 50 video game franchises. You can vote on the website, geekcastradio.com at the top. Let your friends, family, and other fellow gamers know about it and fill out. It's an open entry form. We just ask you to fill out the top 10 at least of the franchises. Obviously, the top 50 will be compiled later, and hopefully we get a pretty decent list going. And I've already kind of been separating a little bit of it. We haven't had a lot of people fill it out, but the amount of games that have shown up, I've seen 150 different games franchises show up already.
Cool.
And some of them have been listed more than once. But it's been interesting checking it out. So definitely submit for that, and then hopefully let the best franchise win.
So where is it on your website? If
If you go to the website, it's at the very top of the site, the banner that says the top 50 video game franchise, vote here.
Okay, I see it now.
That is where you want to fill it out. And then, of course, it will ask you it's a mandatory thing to fill out the top 10 at least. That way, just people at least put 10 in there. I'm not requiring all 50 because it's just insane. Not everybody has 50 franchises they like of video games. Then you just have to put your name and email and then do the CAPTCHA and hit submit, and I will get it.
So do it, or I'll punch you in the face.
Dodd will punch you in the face.
And then teabag you like a true video gamer would. That's how we roll.
Yeah, I do that in Battlefield after I win.
And you can teach that.
Yes. And then at the end of the round, I jump up and down so that you can see me at the map.
The bunny hopping bastard.
Yes. Yep. It's fun. Or you do the ground hump when you're doing it. But so with that, until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.
Doodaloo, doodaloo, doodaloo.